Hello and welcome back to this edition of Daily Actives brought to you by Bootleg Macro. I am Dustin. This is the show where we review the most active stocks in Yahoo Finance every single day. We're gonna go ahead and look at Plug. It looks like Plug was the most active stock on Yahoo Finance today with 387 million shares traded. If you've watched any of my previous videos, specifically my videos from like the previous day, I covered Plug yesterday. I maybe covered it in a previous video as well. So if you watch my previous video, this is probably going to be confirming what I said originally, which is that when you look at Plug, what I like is that I've seen recently is that we've had a very tight, narrow range moving up to this point. We saw the price broke up above the top of the range, but as we got above the top of the range, you were going to expect this thing to correct probably back into the middle of the range, probably closer to $2. Today, it looks like it was down nearly 5%, down 12 cents, it looks like, but I would expect it there to be a little bit more. Now, if I was going to say that there's anything concerning about the move today, it's going to be that it's on the highest volume we've seen in the past, it looks like 9 months or so. While that's concerning specifically just because if you think about the type of moves that we've seen inside of Plug has had a momentum as it's moved up in the volume, which has been really good to see. But as we see it kind of have like a crater day, not a full one, but a real like looking and showing of people like taking profit, a real reversal of fortune to a certain extent there. It gives you an indication that this may actually be what is going to be a possible longer term correction more than just one specific day. We'll find out as the days move on. As we start to look at the sentiment here, the thing I like in Plug is that it has steadily risen from this 50% level. The black bar is actually the 50% level. So the red is the bearishness, the green is the bullishness. When you see the green break above the top of the black line, that means that you're seeing more bullishness take over. Right now we're at 61%. If you've watched any of my previous videos and you kind of look in the previous stuff here, usually this indicator will pop out around the high 60s. If you get something really extreme, especially a penny stock, you can see in the 70s, but generally when you get to like 62, 63, 64, that's generally where you're going to peter out. We're looking at the 15 day here. You can see we're already at 71%. So I would expect that we're going to see a reversal of fortunes, at least in this bullish momentum we've seen over the past few weeks. Now, if we're looking at the volatility, the thing that I'd say is the most concerning to me is that we are seeing the volatility break out. What I like to see generally, if you watch my videos, I like to see when the volatility is falling. I believe that that's when trend reveals itself. When you see this falling and you see the bullish sentiment, the price may not be necessarily indicative of it, but that is what I like to see in terms of like something I believe is going to be longer term, something to believe in. So with the volatility breaking out and the price falling down, I would say that that's generally going to be a counter trend move. The only concern that I have when I'm looking at the data is the fact that we are at 71% bullishness on the 15 days. That's just slightly concerning. Looking at traditional volatility, we can see it starting to break out as well. Now, if we look at the pricing here on Plug, the most important thing to me is where is it in the range. So if you look at this top guide here, you can see we've got extremely low, significantly low, moderately low, normal, moderately high, significantly high, and extremely high. Now, if we look at where Plug has been just over the past day or so, yesterday was extremely high, today it is moderately high, and it's been that way for probably a little over a week now. It started, it looks like, on the 17th. We can see the same thing in the volume, right? Like, obviously, the volume is extremely high. I just pointed out that's the highest that we've seen in the past 9 months. And if we look, the concerning thing that I'd say is that we're looking at that it's only gone down on the 1 day. It has not come down on the 5 day or the 15 day yet, and they are up significantly. So if it's up 50% from there, I'm saying this thing could easily go back under $2. It would be an aggressive, violent move, and I'm sure that people watching it do not believe it, but that doesn't mean it can't happen because when you have prices this low, anything can happen very, very quickly. Let's go ahead and look at Open. Open has been one of the darlings of the market very recently. I think this is probably going to be slightly contentious just because I'm pretty sure, I think it's Martin Shkreli, has opened up a short position. Now, he is not somebody I ever want to bet against. In full disclosure, I am not in Open at all. If you go back and watch one of my videos, I'm pretty sure from like 2 days ago, even 3 days ago, I definitely cover Open. The reason I call it out is because what I mentioned in the video is that when you get the price that breaks up above, so when you've had essentially the price that's been in a very tight range, you start to see bullish sentiment come in. That's the green bars underneath. Then you see the price start to break out at the top and ride the very top of the range. That's a good sign. When it breaks out jaggedly above the top of the range and then the range starts to roll over like we're seeing here, that shows me that we're probably going to see that move kind of peter out as they come back down. I'm pretty sure yesterday I said this thing was going to come back down probably to 8, maybe to the mid 7s. You can check me on that if you want to go watch my video and leave the comment in the comments below this video. But I would expect that we're definitely going to see this price kind of hang out for a little while. I'm not really a chartist in the sense of like looking at lines and looking at vectors and looking at setups. I really look at it from the data and the perspective of like what is it doing relative to itself. Looking at Open, this is a concerning look. I will say it is down yeah, it says it was down 15.3% today. I don't like that. I am not a big fan of that. The concerning thing I'd say as well is that as we got to the top here, it looks like on the 10th was a big day specifically because if we look, September 10th was a day when we were looking and we were saying, okay, we had massive volume. The price didn't really move significantly. The next day we had a massive open, and then we haven't been able to reclaim that high. So we would need to break like $11 for this to be anything that I would consider to be serious and longer term. In the shorter term, this thing is still incredibly bullish. We were at 60% still. You can see because it was a lower price, we got in the high 70 or the low 70s. Very recently, it looks like on the 11th, we're at 70.4. We are starting to get down to that 50% level. We're at 53% bullishness on the 15-day here. You can see the sentiment is starting to roll over. I would like to see the sentiment roll over, as I kind of alluded to in the earlier comment just about plug. I think when the sentiment is, or the volatility is rolling over, that is a really good indication of good things to come, because generally bull markets love lower volatility, especially falling volatility. Now, if we're looking at the table here, the best thing that I'd say in terms of what I see for open is that the price is essentially resting on the top of the trade level. The big thing too is now you're getting a higher low at the bottom. Obviously, the top of the range is coming down. We have seen it down 15% just today. We've seen it down 20% over 5 days. This is the type of move that I'd be expecting in plug. Like, you can look back here, this thing was up 57%. It was up 36%. It was up 76% over the course of 5 days. Only a short, like less than 10 days later, we're down 20% over the past 5 days and down 15%. And we've gone from what used to be up 226% over 15 days to now up only 39% over 15 days. If you were looking for a place to start nibbling on open, this would be a place I'd start looking at it. And I know there's people who are like fighting in the comments around the idea of like valuation and market cap and what's the addressable market and how much revenue can this company make. I don't care. I am not looking at how much this company can make. I'm looking at how is the stock trading. Who cares about the valuation of open? To be honest, sometimes you get the tail, sometimes you get the wind at your back, sometimes you don't. Now let's go ahead and look at BBAI. I think, what is this, BigBear.ai, I think. That's what it is. It's always funny to me when these AI companies come out and they just create these obnoxious names, and you're like, okay, why not? Let's buy that. But when we look at the chart, I am loving what I see here. Generally, this is the type of move that you'd want to see in something, especially because it looks like if we can break this, what looks like 974, there's nothing above it except for blue sky, which means there's no one going to be selling above you. Now, when we look at the data that we're looking at specifically for Big Bear, if you watch any of my previous videos on Snap, and I'll cover Snap in this video, this is what I like to see, where you're going to see a breakout, you're going to see it consolidate a little bit, then you're going to see what I imagine is a rollover volatility, which I continue to mention because I think that's a great indication of good things to come. And then you start to see a breakout, you see it at the top of the range, and now it's screaming at the top of the range as well. You can see the close today was at 799, top of the range. It looks like is at 771, so we're well above it. If we think about what we're looking at here, this is really a good indication of something that not only did it have a nice pullback, but the volume fell during the pullback. And now as we're starting to get a higher move, we were getting high volume. Sorry, my volume today is actually, I've got a problem with my data provider. So my today volume on the 22nd is causing me an issue. You probably noticed that when I was looking at open just a moment ago. But if we look at where we are in terms of the sentiment, I like that we are just getting back to 49%. We're just about to break above 50% bullish sentiment. We don't have crazy bullish sentiment on the 15-day either. We're only at 59%. When you think about what we saw in open and plug, we are near 70% already. The only concern I'd say that I see is that it looks like volatility is going to reset pretty soon here, probably sometime this week. This is a zero bounded indicator, so the lowest it can get would be pretty much zero. So if we're looking, like here, you see it gets down to 0.1, which is obviously incredibly low. Right now we are at 1.483, so this does have quite a bit to go if you think about the fact that it could have moves higher without having like a significant move. It doesn't have to be up 12%. It could just be up 5% a few days in a row, and that would still allow the volatility to fall, but just not as much as it is right now. Now, if we look at the data table, the concerning thing here is just like I called out when we were looking at, I think, open, is that, or not open, we were looking at plug, is that we've been significantly high for over a week now. So we are at $7.99. The trade level is at 551. The top of the range is at 771. I would expect a pullback in here pretty consistently. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to go to like 6 or 5, or it's even going to come down to this 550, but I would expect that there's going to be at least a little bit of slowing of that momentum in terms of the way the price has been moving. Let's go ahead and look at NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA has been an interesting one because NVIDIA has been on a bearish trend recently. It has been on a bullish trend recently. It has showed some very interesting dynamics relative to what it's been doing recently. The reason I say that is because if we look at what NVIDIA has been doing, this thing hasn't been essentially a rocket ship for the entire year, but essentially since we saw this move in the beginning of May, this thing has been up and to the right ever since. It looks like we got some bearishness that has come in just in the middle of August. If we're going to be honest, that's what these red lines are. It means it's got bearish. The concerning thing that I would say is that we're bouncing off the top of the range after really bouncing on the bottom of the range. I'd want to see this price break up above the top of the range. For it to close at 183 yesterday and the top of the range to be at 187, slightly concerning. Also, I'd say the concern that I see is that the top of the range is coming down, which means that I'm expecting this to essentially result in this base to go higher. I'm looking for a 200 price in NVIDIA. I don't want this thing to sit around the mid 180s. I say you definitely have to get in the mid 190s or low 190s for this thing to be a confirming sign. Now we're looking at what we've seen. The nice thing that I like is that we've seen a lot of volume. It's not good that we necessarily saw a lot of volume today, but if we're looking, we still have got a lot of bullishness that we could gain inside of NVIDIA. We're only at 48% bullishness on the 50, on the 20 or on the full month, and then we're at 51% on the 15-day. So there's a lot of bullishness that could come in. So the best thing that I see here is that we've got falling volatility. What I'd like to see is just a slow drip out of the volatility, very similar to what we saw here. It looks like in August or in July. It looks like we saw this at the very beginning. So you got a resetting of volatility in May. That's going to pretty much coincide with when you saw a trend change, because when you are seeing a resetting of volatility alongside a trend change, that generally tells me that we can see something that can go for a long time. Right now, NVIDIA is just displaying that it really doesn't have any momentum. As crazy as that seems for a stock that has been one of the most popular and the most talked about, this thing really doesn't have any momentum. Now, again, I've been mentioning that my volume has definitely been coming in as a problem. I would expect that this is a problem too in NVIDIA. But if we look at the price, I know the price is good. So if we're looking, we're at 178.49 is what we ended up getting here. But if I look, we are essentially just right above the trade level. The top of the range is still significantly higher. The bottom of the range, it looks like it's coming up, which I like to see. If this thing could flip bullish, I'd be very, very confident that we're going to see higher highs inside of NVIDIA. Now, if I'm going to be concerned about anything, it's going to be that we just saw it flip negative on the 1 month today. But that actually makes me think that I'm going to see a positive flip tomorrow. I don't expect this to be down tomorrow. Just going to be honest. The reason why is because, yeah, today we were down nearly 3%. Yeah, now we're down on the 1 month, but we're still positive on the 5-day, 15-day, and significantly, or what is truly important is on the 3 month. The 3 month is still up double digits, which I like to see. The 6 month, obviously 62%. The 1 year still up 53%. I'd like to see a continued resolution higher. We'll find out when NVIDIA shows us throughout the rest of the week, but that's what I'm seeing right now. Let's go ahead and look at Snap. Snap is one of the most interesting to me because the type of move that I've seen, I called this out, I believe, earlier in Big Bear, but this like breakout a little bit higher. It's not really a breakout because it didn't break the highs even of December, but at least some bullish movement. That's what the green line means. And then you get a base here where you got the red line, and now we're breaking out a little bit higher. And I like the fact that it's essentially closing that gap. The thing that I love about it too, even though you can't really tell on the line chart, is the amount of volume that we've got going on with it. The volume being a big part of it is such a significant indicator of what we've got coming in terms of support for the bullish move. We look at the daily sentiment indicator, you can see that we are well above the 50% line on the daily sentiment. We're at 60% on Snap. The 15-day, we're at 57%. The nice thing, I would say, just very similar to what we showed before, is that we are seeing an increase in volatility. The thing that I like is that we've got a high correlation to the volatility, or at least a rising correlation to the volatility as it starts to break out again. What it's telling me is that we're most likely going to see this thing kind of chop a little bit, and then it could definitely break out. Like it could gap higher because the volatility is breaking out higher. So I'll be very curious to see what happens in Snap. The thing when it looks at the actual price, obviously we started to pull back a little bit before, or the previous 2 days we were significantly high. Now we're only moderately high, and obviously the significantly high was a nice welcome respite from when we were extremely high in the 18th, 17th, and 16th. It looks like the trade level continues to rise. The top of the range is continuing to break out as well. Let's see the top of the range get significantly higher. I think it'll be able to do it because I judge it based on higher highs. I think over like 20 days or 25 days, just essentially looking at like the past month of what has the range been doing. And you can see that it got really tight back here. So it should be very easy comparisons as we move forward. So I like what I'm seeing here in Snap. Go ahead and look at, I don't want to look at DNN. Let's look at SOUN. I haven't looked at SOUN in a while. Let me go ahead and refresh that real quick. I'm going to go ahead and look for SOUN. The thing about some of these stocks, okay, the thing about some of these stocks is that they don't make any sense. And I just want to call that out because obviously this is not financial advice. I'm just looking at how the data or how the price is actually moving. I don't know what SOUN does. I think they're an AI company. I honestly don't care. It could be SoundCloud for all I care. But what we're looking at here is very, very like positive price action. You see it was bearish in, it looks like March, April, flip bullish in May, slipping in there. But we're getting the price that is now screaming to the top of the range. The close at 1802, the top of the range is 1834. We're very, very bullish. We're seeing it continue to move. I like that kind of movement, especially when we add that with the volume that we're seeing here, especially considering that the average volume, it looks like, is 44 million shares. The previous few days, we've seen 90 million shares. I'm a big fan of looking at this. Looks like we saw 119 million shares traded today. Like, that's huge. When it looks at the bullishness, we are at what, 50, we're at 59%. Slightly concerning because we're at 59%. On the 15-day, we're already up at 63%. So I'd expect a little bit of a pullback here. But if we look at the actual data, what the thing, and again, I apologize about the volume. I got to work with my data provider on this, but we're looking at the price. We are significantly high, right? We've been moderately high for the past little bit here. And this is, I want to call this out because sometimes Sometimes things go bullish and you don't get an opportunity to be able to buy into them just because of the type of market that you're in. And right now, I think we can all agree that we're definitely in some sort of like bubble-licious market. Not saying this is a bubble per se. I don't see people buying NFTs or like buying like virtual real estate or anything just yet. But I can definitely tell with the sentiments I'm seeing on Wall Street bets that we are getting up there where people are making crazy bets on like Tesla. So SOUN, it looks like, is at 1803. The trade level is at 1436. I would expect the top of the range is going to keep screaming higher. Yesterday was 1763. Today it's 1834. So like we are seeing significant moves. This thing is up. It looks like nearly $1.50 over the course of 3 days. I won't be surprised to see this thing in a crazy move, but I could also see a nasty pullback down to like 16 bucks. So be really careful out there, especially if you're paying attention to this on like tight stuff or like DTC or like zero DTE options. But let's go ahead and look at Intel. INTC. Now, this one, if you know anything about the news, which again, I only get like whatever shows up on Google News, this is essentially related to NVIDIA. This looks like it is definitely, it looks like this move here we saw on the 18th was driven purely by the NVIDIA investment. But what we can see is today was actually a positive day in terms of the way the stock responded. It was actually up 2%, it looks like, which I really like because you saw it pop higher above the range, you saw it fall back down, and now it's starting to glide at the top of the level. What I like as well is that we've had very high volume very recently. I like as well that the daily sentiment, this thing is currently negative. It's at 54% bullishness, which means 54, or it's at 45% bullishness, which means 54% bearishness. We're only at 47% bullishness even on the 15-day. I can see that the volatility has reset, started to fall as we got that pop, and now it's going to probably reset and continue to fall now, which I really like to see. We go ahead and look at the actual price. The thing that is difficult here again is that you were extremely high, moderately high, and now, or significantly, so you were extremely high, significantly high, and now moderately high. We could definitely see the trade level come up to 29 or 28 or 27, but what I suspect is we're probably going to see this price down in the 28th sometime soon. Maybe the high 28th, maybe 28.75 is going to be a place. Just so we can get back into the normal range. If not, we're probably going to be sitting here for a little bit, right underneath 30 until we get some more significant news. But we are seeing higher highs. That's very positive. We are seeing the trade level continue to rise. It's very positive. We're positive on the 1 day all the way through the 1 year. I like what I see in INTC. Intel looks very, very good. Let's go ahead and look at Tesla because Tesla has been a ridiculous beast for the past like month or so. And today it looks like it was down nearly 2%. So Tesla is an interesting case because Tesla is blessed by the volatility gods. If you watch my previous videos, I definitely say that all the time because the type of moves we see in Tesla are just, they're unique. Okay. I won't say there's anything more to the market. They're just unique. There's no other stock that shows things like this except for Tesla. When we look, what I like to see too is that we've had a very tight range. We started to see a breakout. The price went above the top of the range. Now we're seeing the range continue to climb and the price is kind of, it's just chilling is what I'd say. The price is just hanging out somewhere around this like 430, 440 price. It looks like now we're at 425. The thing that I would say is the most positive for Tesla is that the volume significantly increased as the price did. You can see if we're looking at the daily sentiment as well, the bullishness has been on a tear ever since 9/2. We are up at what looks like 62% bullishness. On the 15-day, we're at 72%. That's a concern. The thing that I like to see though is it looks like we're probably peaking here in the volatility. The volatility is probably going to start falling, very similar to what I like in terms of it revealing itself, and hopefully you get a positive trend. When the volatility falls and the correlation is negative, usually the price will go sideways to up, which I like to see. Let's go ahead and look at what the price has been doing in Tesla. So again, we're moderately high. We have been for 4 days. Before that, we were significantly high. We were for 3 days, and then we were extremely high. So Tesla is showing us that not only has it had a significant move, but this move has been sustained because anytime that you're going to stay well above the normal range for this amount of time, obviously markets aren't efficient because what I'm showing you here in terms of the way that the price is moving does completely contradicts the entire efficient market hypothesis because this price should just come back down to reality at a certain point, but it didn't because again, Tesla had unique moves. The trade level is all the way up at 375, right? Like just what 12 days ago was at 340. The top of the range is at 469. I'm sure they'll hit it. And you can see we got higher highs. This is really, really positive for Tesla. Yes, we were down nearly 2% today, but on the 1 day, on the 5 day, 15-day, 1 month, 3 months, 6 month, and 1 year, we're very, very positive. So Tesla is looking like a wonderful stock in terms of the way that it's moving. I'm gonna go ahead. Let's see. I want to see like a big mover. Was there a big mover today? Let's see. I don't see any significantly like crazy moves today. I mean, the biggest moves were on the downside, unfortunately. So tell me what you think in the comments below. Are you long? Are you short? Do you like it? Do you love it? Is this even a good review? And before you go ahead and follow me on Twitter. Bootleg Macro. I'm always talking about how I'm releasing new videos. If you want to see my new videos before anybody else, go ahead and subscribe. YouTube/bootleg macro. I'm interested in getting some like really kind of cool stuff. I do specific newsletters. I have a crypto newsletter. The benefit of the crypto newsletter is that it's essentially can get if you use this actual app itself. You would have to buy premium to be able to see it, but I have a crypto page where essentially what you can do is you can look at cryptocurrencies the same way that we're looking at them when we're looking at these daily active stocks. Gives you the same like the gradient or the coloring when it comes to the close and the volume. You get the sentiment. You can see where things are. It even shows you how close you are to the buy bottom from the sell top and from the trade level. You can even set alerts on stuff, which I really like. I personally use the alerts if I want to be able to track when things are either breaking down or breaking out. So it's something that you can check out. You can always go to what is traderanges.com/crypto newsletter. I do have a free one. The free one comes out every single Saturday. I believe it comes out at 11 a.m. The premium one just comes out every single morning at 6:15 East Coast time. So definitely check out what you think you want to see. Actually, I believe it comes out at 7 a.m., 7:15 a.m. I'm just a one-man show here, okay? I'm making videos, I'm coding the app, I'm doing all this stuff myself, so just give me some slack. And if you don't like it, comment below. But if you want, you can always check this out. You get a free trial, it's 7 days, and it's $10 a month, and you'll get access to the premium page, as well as you'll end up getting an email every single day at those times, and you can go ahead and check it out. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.